Hello everyone, and welcome to another accessibility tips video. In this video, we are going to be talking about color contrast. So let's get right into it. Okay, so when we are talking about color contrast, we're essentially talking about two things. We are talking about items in the background and the color that they are, versus items in the foreground and the color that they are, and what happens when those two areas overlap, and can you tell the difference between those two colors? So what I'm going to do today is we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about several different areas where you can actually adjust color contrast in your Canvas course. All right, let's hop over to Canvas. Okay. For the first example here, as you can see on the page, or maybe you can't see it, on the page I actually have a line of text that gives you the number 1, and then it says foreground text. Because really what we're talking about in looking for the contrast between background and foreground color in Canvas is whatever you put on the page is going to be your foreground, and the page itself in the little rich content editor window, that white background, that's the background. And as you can see, or maybe you can't, in my text here, it says foreground text, and it's very faint because the color I chose to represent this is a very light gray, right? So it's hard to distinguish the text between what is written and what's in the background. In order to change that, all I need to do is actually come up here. I have several options. I can highlight my color, come up here to the text color tool, and I can change it so that there's stronger contrast there. So I could come here and select black, for example, and now you can clearly read that text right there on the page. Let me go ahead and put it back for the sake of the demonstration. Okay, so once again, now it's back to having some issues, but you'll also notice that down here with my accessibility checker in the lower right-hand corner of the rich content editor, if I check that, it's going to tell me a couple things about the accessibility issues. So one, it's telling me that it needs to be formatted as a list. So I'll just go ahead and say that and say next. But if you're having color issues within the rich content editor, it's also going to tell you that there's a change text color error happening here on your page. Now to change the color, I have several options. I can come in here to my big color palette, and I can just select somewhere in the window and change that color. So let me go ahead and select that, and now the text is black. Let me go ahead and put it back. Or I can also come here, and to these sliders, I can change the color. So I could actually come here and change the color so that it's now, let me go ahead and change something that's like maybe a bright red. So I could actually come in here and change to that bright red, but I want really strong color contrast. So I'm gonna go ahead and select black, say apply. I can close my accessibility checker, and now I have a strong contrast between my foreground text and the background of the rich content editor. Okay, next up, let's go ahead and take a look at changing color contrast using design tools. What we have here on the page is some design tools headers. I didn't design a whole page using design tools, but you get the gist of how design tools looks on a page. And what we have are two different headers. We have the top header here, and clearly there is a very clear contrast with the white text against the gray background. Now down here in our readings section, it's a little more difficult to see because readings is a faint gray versus the background also being gray. And of course, we have the most important text anybody will ever read is the Chronicles of Lord Matthias. You might want to check your library for that. I'm just kidding. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at how we can change these color contrasts using design tools. Up in the top right-hand corner, you get that little rocket ship. Go ahead and click that, and that will actually open up your design tools menu. Now once you're in here, we're going to go into the Customize the Style menu, which is the second menu down. We're going to go to Current Element Style, all right? And what we're going to do is we're going to come in here to this top banner where it says Readings, and we're just going to click in there. Now the Current Element menu is going to move and change based on the elements you have selected on your page. So because I've now selected in my Readings header, it's going to pull up all the settings that I have for that readings header. And the one we are most interested in going to is this one right here at the top called Colors Basic. Now, what you also get here is this really handy tool called the WCAG 2.0 ratio, and what it's looking for is that color contrast ratio between the foreground and background. Now what you're going to see here is that we get a fail, right? That's because that is such a faint gray on gray that you really can't tell that it doesn't mean everybody will be able to see that difference between readings and the background bar. But what we also have here is we have this nice background color area where we can choose and change the color of the background, or we can even just change the color of the text. And that's the option I'm going to take. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to change the color of that reading text, and I'm going to find a white somewhere in my color palette, and I'm just going to select that white. And now look what it ends up telling us is we now have green. We're in the green in our WCAG 2.0 ratio. It's AA to AAA, and as long as we're somewhere in that range and it's green, we're good. Ideally we want AAA to AAA, but we can get as close as possible. So now I have green to green, AA to AAA, and you'll see that the text color has changed to white. And that is the basics of changing color contrast using design tools, as well as what we have power over with color contrast with regard to accessibility. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope it was informative, and I'll see you next time. Bye.